Welcome to this episode of the Sports Detective Podcast Show. My name is James Williams, and today Podcast P sounds off on Ace Bailey skipping pre-draft workouts. What are we talking about? Well, if you guys don't know who Ace Bailey is or why he has been in the news the last few days, Ace Bailey is one of the most sought-after prospects in this year's NBA draft. I've seen him go as high as 3 in certain mock drafts, all the way down to 8, so he's a top 3, 5, 8 player in this year's draft. He played one season at Rutgers. He translates to the NBA, it looks like, as probably a wing, so like a 3, maybe a 4, maybe a little bit of a smallish type of 4. But Ace Bailey he's the only American prospect that has not worked out with any single NBA team. And this is leading a lot of people to being like, what is up with this kid? Why isn't he doing this stuff? Does he have the wrong people around him? Because that's kind of the word on the street, is that Ace doesn't want to go to a, quote unquote contender right away, like the Philadelphia 76ers. He'd rather go to a crappy team where he can put up a bunch of stats and get a bunch of accolades and, put up numbers and stuff the stat sheet early on in his career and not necessarily care about winning basketball games right away. So this has drawn a lot of criticism from certain draft analysts, certain NBA analysts, and add Podcast P Paul George to the mix because Paul George was on his podcast recently and he sounded off on Ace Bailey, skipping notably his Philadelphia 76ers pre-draft workout. So let's go ahead and listen to what Paul George had to say, and then we'll react to it afterwards.
Bailey, I can't get mad if my stock drops. He's canceled all workouts. Like, he hasn't worked out for any team.
Not one team?
No. He hasn't worked out for any
He's
team.
tripping.
I think they made a big deal because we were scheduled to work him out and he canceled the day of, but he hasn't worked out for any team. But you're not in a position to be making those demands. Make it to the league first.
You think that's him or the people around him?
It's for sure the people
course
around
gotta
him.
be, right?
For sure the
Like-
people around him. I don't think they're going about it the right way.
That, again, it just seems bold.
That's a kid that's been paid in college, bro. I got money. I don't
that's
care.
basically what
I
he
would
doing.
tell you where I want to go.
Yeah.
I got money now. This is a business. If I'm going to put my money behind you, I need to know that you're going to represent us well. It's almost the me before the team before he's on a team. He's not wrong for wanting to be a number one option. I'm with him all the way. The way of going about it is just not right.
I disagree with Paul George a little bit there at the end. I mean, he's speaking obviously from the player's perspective, but Paul George has obviously been a guy that when he started to want to win in his career, he went to Oklahoma City to be a second option to Russell Westbrook. He went to the Clippers to be a second option to Kawhi Leonard. He went to the Sixers to be a second or maybe even a third option on that basketball team. So you would assume too, because here's the thing too about someone that plays Ace Bailey's position. Like I said, he probably translates to like a 3 or maybe even a 4 in the NBA. All of the best wings that we've had in the NBA or even have in the NBA today or the last 10, 15 years, most of them have started off their careers as role players on winning basketball teams. Even if you look at Paul George, when he got drafted to the Pacers, he was a backup to Danny Granger early on in his career. And then after a few years, slowly kind of morphed into being the leading scorer on a team that took the Miami Heat, LeBron James Miami Heat, to 7 games 2 years in a row. Look at Kawhi Leonard. He started off as a defensive specialist on the Spurs and then slowly morphed into a top 5 guy in the NBA that's winning finals MVP for Toronto. You look at Jason Tatum. He gets drafted to the Boston Celtics right away. And he's I think he played maybe 10, 13 games on the bench his rookie year, but eventually morphed into a guy that's making first team All NBA perennially. His teammate, Jaylen Brown, 3rd pick in the draft, same kind of story, is a bench guy, 5th best player on the starting lineup, and then eventually morphs into a guy that's getting a $300 million contract. So basically the only 2 wings that we have had in the NBA that have not been guys that started off their careers as role players and became like some of the best in the league is basically just Kevin Durant and LeBron James. That's it. And you can say, hey, you want to go to a team because, you could really go through Philadelphia's depth chart, and you could maybe even say if Ace Bailey gets drafted there specifically, maybe there isn't that much room for him to even get that Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum type of playing time right away in the NBA. But I don't know, maybe this is me being a little bit older now, but I feel like I would want to go to a good team where I can win. Wouldn't you want to go to an Oklahoma City Thunder? Wouldn't you want to go to a Boston Celtics? Wouldn't you want to go to, theoretically, a Philadelphia 76ers, a Dallas Mavericks, teams that actually have dudes that are ready to compete and be, you're not just going to this project farm like the Washington Wizards or the Brooklyn Nets, who now have 5 first-round picks in this year's draft. Because you can say all you want about the advantages of going to a bad team and basically just improving in front of no one, where you get to have all of these different touches in all these games, and you get to put up all these shots, and you get to work out all these different kinks in your game. But there's a lot of disadvantages on being on a really crappy team too, where you're losing 75, 70, 65% of your games on a year, is that winning isn't a priority, and you might be losing a lot of winning habits, and you might be learning a lot of losing habits. You might not be closing out and trying to get every single rebound. You might not be closing out on 3-point shooters on defense. You might not be trying as hard on defense. You might not be trying to play in the flow of an offense if you're getting blown out all the time. You might not be trying to get other teammates involved. And just over time, if you're on a bad team for long enough, I worry about this with, everyone that's ever played on the Charlotte Hornets and is still on the Charlotte Hornets, is that you're just going to develop all of these bad habits, and they at some point become impossible to break. I think Bradley Beal is a really good example of this, where he was like, oh, I'm good being on this 35-win Wizards team for 4 or 5 straight years. And then he goes to the Suns, and it's like, all right, Bradley Beal, time to be a role player, time to be, the Ray Allen to this 2022, Phoenix Suns team. You're the Ray Allen on this team. And he's like, what? What do I do? You want me to play defense? Nice try. Want me to spot up shooter? Nice try. And that's kind of the fear of what happens when you're on a bad team for a very long time and you're not playing in serious competitive basketball games. I worry about this with LaMelo Ball, and we covered this on this show, actually, where LaMelo Ball, if you actually go through, he hasn't been on a winning team since high school. Like that, and he's like 23, 24 now. Like, that's got to be something that, if you're going to not be playing winning basketball for several years, that's got to be something that at some point affects you. And if I'm Ace Bailey, I just think maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. And we're in this situation where, even some of these bad teams, quote unquote, bad teams that he could be, quote unquote, tanking himself to go to, like Washington, like Brooklyn, actually seem to be organizations that, again, aren't winning that much basketball games, but do seem the ship is headed at least in the right direction. Washington is a place that has a lot of veteran, players that might be able to, maybe speak some wisdom to a young player like Ace Bailey. But right now, man, this seems like he also had another bad quote early on in the draft process. I think it was at the Combine, where he said, basically, it was something of like, to everyone else here, they think I'm taking bad shots, but I practice all these shots, so that means that they're not bad shots. That's kind of another thing I've heard about Ace too, just from some of the draft stuff that I've been reading and listening to. He does he makes all of the hard stuff look easy, but he's having a problem of having making all of the easy stuff look easy. All of the easy stuff for him looks hard at this stage in his development. And that's, I don't know, maybe you can make an argument that that'd be a good thing for him to go to a bad team where he can work on that stuff. Or maybe, like I was saying earlier, it might not be that good for his development if he just keeps learning all of these bad habits and gets used to all of these bad habits. So by the time probably most of you guys too listen to this, I'm recording this a night before he's probably going to be selected in the NBA draft. Well, he's definitely going to get selected, but I was just thinking about the time that I'm going to post this. But so whatever team he ends up going to, congrats. Whether it's Utah, whether it's Brooklyn, whether it's Washington, whether it's Philly, whoever it may be, good luck to you. But there is some question marks, red flags with Ace Bailey. Seems like a nice kid. Hopefully he can get into a place that supports him well. But this pre-draft workout stuff, like Paul George said, hey man, you ain't that guy. you ain't that guy to be doing stuff like this. And maybe your destination, your destiny in the NBA is being a 2 or a 3 on a team, or at least even just to start out in your career. I don't know. That's going to do it for this episode here today. Thank you for watching. If you like this episode, make sure you hit subscribe, hit like, leave a comment. Those are all doing all 3 of those things is the best way that you can support the show. It costs you absolutely $0. Helps us out tremendously in the algorithm and gets us out to as many people as possible. So if you do that stuff, I'll love you forever. Feel free to check out other videos on Sports Detective Podcast channel page. And as always, guys, I'll talk to you next time. Thank you for watching.